Hey, Ray, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and now we're going to start actually trying to build the logic of the game. Okay, so the first thing we really want to do, logic-wise, is we want to get all the questions. Okay, so now we can finally unveil our fetch here, or our AJAX request. Okay, so we're getting the data. So let's take a look at the data. Okay, and let's just examine it, and we see that this data returns us an object, and this object has several properties: items, limit, skip, sys. Really, we don't need any of this. Really, all I really care about is this items array. Okay, and actually I don't even really want the way it is, because I really just want the fields. So really what I want to do is create a new array from this items array where it's just the fields. I just really want this object here. Ideal world is just an array of these objects. So let's work on that first. Okay, so basically going forward, our application logic has to happen here in this .then, because the data, the actual question data, doesn't exist until this .then happens. Because here we're asking for the data, and then this means run this code after the data arrives. So the rest of my application really has to be wrapped in this .then. So first things first. What I want to do is let's see here. Should I put it in my state? Let's declare a variable. Let questions. And do I already use the word? Yeah, that's question singular. So let questions equal an empty array for now. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. So that we have the array of questions. So then what we're going to do here is we're going to reassign the array of questions once we have the data. And I want questions to equal the data we saw is an object that has several properties, one of them being items. So I want the items, which is an array. So I'm going to map over that array because I don't like the way the array currently is formatted. So we're going to take each, what should we call it? Each q from the array. And what we want to do is just really return q.fields. Okay, because fields is the actual object that has the properties that I want. So that should give me an array of just the fields. Okay, so what we're going to do is just to show you side by side, I'm going to console.log the data, and then I'm going to console.log questions to make sure that questions is what I'd like it to be. So see, this was the original thing we got. So again, the thing with sys, items, there's the array, and again in there's like fields and sys. I don't like this. So what I did is I mapped over that items array and I said, hey, just return me the fields object, and now see I have a nice clear object of just the properties that I want. Okay, so that's a good, because again, what map does is just builds a new array of the return value of the function you pass in. So that makes life. We just took this really ugly array and made it a really pretty array, which is going to be much easier to work with. Okay, now the next thing we do is, now that we have the array, we want to kind of set the board. Okay, so let's create a function that'll set the board. Okay, so we'll go here, we'll create a function, const set board equals, and this function will take one argument, which should be the array of questions. And the first thing this will do is we're going to get a random question. So const random question. Well, first I want to get a random index, so let's do that first. Random index is the variable, and this should equal a random index from this array. So how do we do random numbers? Math.floor, and then the math.floor we want to do math.random multiplied by the array, which is q.length. That'll give us a random index from the array. And then we can grab a random question from that array. Okay. So that's going to be q random index. So now we have a random question, and that's what these two lines are doing, getting a random question. Then we can use our state to kind of do the rest. So we just set everything up. So we'll just literally run through these. So the question. So question dot inner text should equal random question dot, let me see what these fields are. Random question, let's do that. Just take a look here. It's question ABCD answer. Okay. So random question dot question, because again this is going to represent one question, and one question is that object with the fields of question, answer, A, B, C, D. Okay, so I'm just literally changing all my DOM elements to have all these. So again, we go to the next one. A dot inner text equals random question dot A. B dot inner text equals random question dot B. C dot inner text equals random question dot C. D dot inner text equals random question dot A. Okay, and then we also want the player scores to update. So here we're going to update the question. Update the question, and then here we'll update the player scores. So that way P1 score equals state dot player 1, and that's like P1 score dot inner text, because again these are all DOM nodes. P2 score dot, oh, and I should be doing this all in jQuery, shouldn't I? I did it all in plain vanilla. Okay, so let me just switch this over all to jQuery, which wouldn't be too hard. Okay, so literally all we have to do now is just change these all. Everywhere you see query selector, that's the button that I can push to like do all of them. Okay. So select all of these. So I have to convert. See, this is just normal JavaScript. I want to do this in jQuery. So let's just switch this over to jQuery real quick. Okay, so I'm holding Alt. That's how it allows me to select all these things. Oops. Darn. Try that again. So I'm holding the Alt key, which allows me to just kind of create all these different insertion points. And then we just change that into $1. And now that's jQuery. At the same time, I want my variables to actually have $1 in front of them, because it's convention that when you're using jQuery, you name your variables with $. So again, I'm just using the Alt key. And then I can add $1 to all of those. So that technically should do the thing. And then here I need to do the same thing here. So this is all going to be, again, all these variables now have to have $1 in front of them. So let me just use Alt to get in front of all of these. Alt, 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 because these are the jQuery nodes. And then this would just be a function called text. So let me edit these. Text, 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 and then there, that's a function. And okay, then we want to delete this, so Alt, 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 Alt. Okay, and then here we want to do alt, alt, oh, alt, random question dot a, and then I change each of these for each of these. It's actually a little bit cleaner looking, don't you think, versus what I had before, because again, that's the beauty of jQuery. It makes a lot of your DOM code look a little bit more straightforward. So just need to also change this one, text, because again, text is a function instead of being a property like before. So Control X, I'm just shifting everything over. Oh no. X. And then this would be Control X, that goes in here. Control X, Control V. Okay, there we go. Let me just make sure there was nothing else I need to do that with. Nope, that's all the DOM stuff I've done so far. Okay. So now we've turned it all into jQuery. Goody. Okay, so p2 score dot text again, so I can change the text of it, and this time it's going to be state dot player 2, because basically I'm saying, hey, whatever the current score for the player is in the state object, set the score to that. Okay, so basically what this function is doing is that it's picking out a new random question, updating the question on the screen. That's what this is doing, and then updating the player scores. Okay, so let's see if this works. So technically, right after these console logs, we should be setting the board for the first question, and we pass in the questions array. Okay, and let's see if that works. Okay, so we see, hey, there's the first question. Good. Okay, right now I can't click on anything yet because I haven't added any event listeners to these. Okay, to these things. Okay, but we see that, hey, the function runs and it sets up the question. Nice. So next step is to make it where we can click on these buttons and select an answer. Okay. So what we need to do is we're going to create another function, but I'm going to create this function above this function because I'm going to use this function in set board. So I got to make sure I define it first. Const choose answer. So this is going to be the function that happens when you click the button. So that means it's an event. So it's a click event. Okay, and so that means it's going to receive the event object, which has a bunch of information about. So first off, we're just going to see if it works. Console.log event. Okay, we're just going to make sure it works. So what we're going to do is that we want it on all these A, B, C, and D. Okay, we want to add this event listener. So let's see here. Index.html, A, B, and C, and D. They're all LIs. Do I have any other LIs on the screen? No. So we can just do it on all of them. So what we're going to do is that after we reset the board, we're going to do $. That's again jQuery query thing. So I'm going to query all the LIs from the screen. So that's 4 LIs. And then I'm going to do .on to add a function to them, which happens on a click. Okay, and that function is going to be choose answer. So choose answer will be that function that runs every time we click on those. Okay, so let's try it out. Technically that should be happening now. False, null, undefined. Although there's 2 undefined. That I have to go fix the thingy. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. False, null. Yeah, one of those is supposed to be an empty string. Oh well. Okay. So now let me click on one of them. And it works. Okay, console logs the event, so I can see the event object here. Cool. So we know the event object is being generated. And then I can figure out what the target is by the target object, and then that should give me access to its properties. Okay, and there's the inner TX. That's what I'm going to want to access. So that's all well and good. So that works. So now what we want to do is do an if. So if now that I think about it, this gets a little bit more complicated because I also need to be able to pass in the set of questions. I want to pass in the particular question's answer into there. So in that case, since I want to be able to pass the answer into this function, I have to do this a little bit differently. I have to actually first, what I want to do is actually write an arrow function. So you're not going to trigger choose answer, you're going to trigger this arrow function. And this arrow function is going to pass receives the event, and then what this function does is uses choose answer, and will pass the event and the question. Okay, passes the event, and actually, what do we save it as? Actually, we want to send random question is the variable that has it in there. So we'll pass the random question in there. So that way it always has the answer for the correct question. So then we have to go back and change this function to receive the question. Okay. So now we have that. So now I can do this. I can be like event dot target dot inner text. That's the text of the thing you clicked on, and it should equal the question dot answer. Okay, and if that's the case, let's just for now let's just test it. Console.log correct. So always test each step of the way. Okay, don't write too much code without having tested it. Console.log incorrect. Okay. Cool. So console.log incorrect. So let's try that out. So if it's wrong, it should say incorrect. So let me refresh the page. So which of the following is a strict inequality operator, which should be this. So if I click on this, I should get correct. Correct. Good. And if I click on, why is there two of the same answer? Okay, I'm trying to think that I made a mistake here. Yep, I did. See, here I didn't write D. That's why. Okay, so now let me refresh this. There we go. So for 4 of loops can be used in all the following except, which would be objects, so that should be correct. I get correct, good. And if I click on sets, I get incorrect. Okay, good. So that's working. Okay, so then really what I want to happen is that is if you click on the wrong answer, no points get distributed. Okay. No points get distributed, so it just ends up resetting the board again. So set board, and we pass questions to set board, which at that point should already, again, we wouldn't be getting to this point until after the fetch, so that should work. So you pass the questions to set board, and it just gives you another question. So let's try that out. So if I choose all of the following are falsy except, so I'm gonna choose a wrong answer, and see, it goes on to a new question. Good. Okay. So now I need to make it do that when there's a right answer. So when there's a right answer, although I wanted to do some other stuff, I wanted to increment the player's points. So what I need to do is make sure I know which player it is. Okay. So what I'm going to do is create a which property here, which starts out as true. Okay. And I put a comma over here. Okay. So meaning like which player. So what I'm going to do here is if the answer is right, if which is true, or actually if state dot which is true, then what we're going to do is that player 1 or state dot player 1 score gets incremented. And then state dot which equals not state dot which means it just flips it, changes it from true to false or from false to true. Okay, and then that's fine there. And then else So if which is false, then it's going to do the opposite with player 2. Same 2 steps though. Player 2 score goes up. And then after either one, it will then set the board with a new question. Cool. So again, if I choose the correct answer, it'll determine which player's turn. And then actually, either way, I should probably switch players. So I should add this to the false. So that way, even if you get the question wrong, it's the next player's turn. Okay. So in this case, if I get the question right, it's going to determine based on that which variable, which player gets the point. If I get it wrong, it's just going to toggle the turn, reset the board with a new question. So now I should be able to get points. So right now, let's refresh. Player 1 should get the first point, and if code block runs when an expression is true, so player 1 should get a point. Nope, cannot read property, question of undefined. So let's see here. Oh, set board should be questions. That's where we went wrong. Okay, let's try that again. Which of the following is strict inequality operator? That should be this one. And see, player 1 gets a point. Are all the following except, and that should be this thing right here. So player 2 should get a point. Oh, no, player 2 did not get a point. Okay, so let's go investigate. Well, one way to investigate, let's actually see if the variable went up. So I'm going to take state.player2 and see that player 2 did not go up by 1. So let me examine why. State.player2 state.which equals not state by which. So let's see what state.which equals. State.which equals false. So it did toggle. That's fine. So did I get the question wrong? Which of the following is a strict inequality operator, which is this one. Let's try that again. That time player 2. So I must have gotten the question wrong before or marked it incorrect. So which a for loop could be used for on all the following except, that's objects. I don't. Okay. So here's what we're doing now. Sometimes I'm thinking that maybe it's not incrementing because it's thinking it's incorrect. So what I'm going to do is first console log correct if we're hitting the correct part. So that way I can see, hey, is it showing correct when it should say correct? And I'm going to console log incorrect during the incorrect branch to see. Okay, so let's see here. Objects and arrays are passed into a function as a reference. Correct. So player 1 got a point. A for loop can be used on all the following, which should be objects, which I got incorrect. Okay. So that tells me that I probably marked the answer incorrect in the data. Okay, so let's try this again. So that means the data is wrong because that should have been treated as correct. Okay, it also just might be like the particular, those quotation marks might have been taken funny. That's also a possibility. All the following are falsy except, because this should be, and it's going to probably do the same thing again. See, it says I'm incorrect. Blocks will run if expression. An if code blocks code will run if the expression is true. So see, that one counted. See, correct. So it's working. It's just some of the answers don't match up correctly, so that I have to investigate the data a little further. But it's working. Okay, we're able to keep track of the two players. We're able to keep track of their scores, and it alternates. So theoretically, you have. But I think we're having. Now, one issue I think we're having is that we're having multiple listeners on top of each other. I think that might be where the problem's happening. So what happens is that every time it's running, it's adding new listeners to these DOM elements. So if I go here and I click on event listeners, click listeners, see there's a whole bunch of listeners on there. Okay, that's part of the problem. So what I need to do is remove those listeners before I add new listeners. So jQuery, remove listener. I think it's just off, but yep, off. Okay. Yeah, we'll just remove all event handlers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this line where I add the handler. So I'll just copy this much. I don't need the whole thing. So like right before we set the handlers, the new ones, we'll clear off the old ones. So it'll just be off. So basically I remove the handlers and then we add the new one each round. And then that should get us where we need to be. So let's try this. An if block code will run if the expression is true. Let me just refresh. Which of the following is a strict inequality operator? That's this. Player 1 gets a score. All the following are falsy except that should be this. Player 2 should get a score. Yes. Okay, so it was the compounding listeners. An if block code will run if the expression is true. Yep, and see keeps alternating, so that way player 1 and player 2 has a score. I mean, I can kind of improve this by saying, okay, let's create like a little thing that says, hey, player 2's turn or whatnot. But this works. We did the thing. Okay, and yeah, it works. You built it. Now you would just upload this GitHub. You can then go into settings and activate GitHub pages, and you've deployed the thing. The thing is going to be up online on the web. You did good. Or you can put it on Netlify or Vercel, but this is a trivia game. You built it. Now I assume that you're going to want to spend some more time making this look a little fancier and maybe add some more nice things again, like something that tells you which player is playing, or maybe a button that resets the game. There's all sorts of cool things you can do here. But again, basically what's happening is that we have the game state, so this is like all the important information, like what's the, even though I never did use this current question variable, but oh well. But I keep track of the player score and which player it is, and then using all that, every time a question's done, we use this set board to set up the next question, and when a player clicks on a button, we use this choose answer to run the logic of what happens when you choose an answer. But bottom line, it's constantly running this set board. It's just resetting it, just kind of changing the text on everything, updating the event listeners, and resetting it for the next snapshot. Cool. So my name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure to also like the video and head over to devnursery.com and alexmercedcoder.com to join the Slack and Discord community. I'll see you guys later.